Welcome back to the channel, everyone. A quick little upload. Actually, I honestly don't know how long this video is going to be, but recently I bought a bunch of MacBooks and I really want to start reviewing them. But I want to talk about the first MacBook I ever owned, and I was actually using this for a majority of the videos that I posted on this channel, I used this laptop as my main MacBook of choice. It was my only machine that I used. I didn't have this and an iMac or whatever. And that machine was the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the Retina version, the 2014 model. And this specific version, I mean, it was honestly the base model as it gets. It had a hard drive, 128 hard drive, 8 gigabytes of RAM. It was a dual core CPU. It was honestly the base model of that time. And it was like a sweet spot for me because I believe I bought this in 2016. And I think I kept it up until about like 2018. So I kept it for about 2 years. So the first I think 500 to 1,000 videos I posted on this channel were straight from this MacBook. This thing was a workhorse. Not one time that I used it or when I was using it did I feel like I had a super old MacBook or anything like that. And honestly, I still feel like those main opinions that I had at that time still pretty much hold up until this time. Now, one thing that I really liked about this MacBook, at least when I bought it in 2016, it was right before the refresh. So like when I owned it, I didn't really feel like I owned like a super old MacBook at the time because this was before I think the refresh came out, and then they refreshed it and then I ended up feeling like I had a super old MacBook. But regardless, it still felt like a super premium machine. It was the first MacBook I ever owned and I really had a really good time using it. So looking at the front, mostly the screen, obviously actually I'll start up with the top casing. It has the Apple logo, the glowing one, which I really like. And I never knew this, but that glowing logo is actually glowing from the screen itself. So it's just like a see-through thing. I guess it's clear, and basically if you increase the brightness of the screen, it increases the brightness of the Apple logo, which I never thought of. And that's really pretty much it there. The best thing about this MacBook was that we did have 2 USB ports, standard USB ports, and that's one thing that I really loved about this MacBook. I never really liked USB Type-C at the time. Now I kind of like it more. All my USB-C MacBooks that I own, I actually like a lot, even though my main machine is still the 2015 one. I actually do like the way the USB ports are on this thing, and on top of that, you actually have that SD card slot as well, which is super cool. I love having that capability on this machine, especially someone like me who makes these type of videos and everything. Me taking something from my camera and being able to quickly import it onto this MacBook is super cool. And I hate having dongles. I hate that whole process. I wish I had like a wireless camera that I could just airdrop files from to and to all the time, but you don't have to have that if you have this 2014 MacBook, which is really cool. You also have an HDMI port, which is really awesome as well, and that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside and the externals. Once you pop this thing open, this is where things get super interesting. Now that screen is a super awesome screen still, and I really don't think they improved the screen technology that much even on the newer versions. I have the newest MacBooks and they really, I mean, they're a little bit better for sure, but like at the core, they're all pretty much the exact same panel. They look almost exactly the same for my eyes. Maybe if I took a magnifying glass and stuff, maybe it look better, I don't know. Now this resolution of this panel is 2560 by 1600, which I think is still the same that they use, and this panel is really nice. I like this panel a lot. It gets bright enough for me, it gets dark enough for me, and I think the panel is one of its sweet spots and one of the best things ever. The keyboard also, it uses that older standard keyboard where it's not like the new butterfly keyboard. Obviously they changed it and they have that new switch mechanism keyboard, which is better, but this one still has an older style keyboard, which a lot more people like. And you know, this one is a lot less fail proof. There's a lot less issues with it. So I definitely do like this keyboard, but not everything is good with this MacBook, I'll be honest. One really small little gripe that I have with this MacBook would definitely be the trackpad. I'm not a huge fan of the trackpad. It is that clicking one you have to click on. It's not like the touch one that we have now, the Force Touch one. It is that standard button click one, which some people might not care about. I honestly, I'm so indifferent about it, but if I had to say something bad about this MacBook, it would definitely be that clicking mechanism. I like the new Force Touch ones for sure, where you can like Force Touch, deep force into things, and it makes it feel the machine feel much more premium. When you have something like this, that little button click you have to click on, it just doesn't feel as premium as something like a Force Touch trackpad that we have nowadays. It's not a big deal, but if I had to complain about something, it would probably be that, if I'm being honest. So that really kind of covers up the little like smaller things here and there. Of course, there's some new things that MacBooks have that this one doesn't have and will never have. For example, the touch bar, this thing will never have that, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. That's probably the biggest thing you're probably missing out on, and if you're getting this one in 2020, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Some people might prefer it and some people might like it, but you can honestly optimize a lot of the function keys on the standard MacBook like a 2014 one, so it'll pretty much be the same thing as like a touch bar MacBook for the most part, because you're just kind of replacing that bar with those ones. And honestly, a lot of people complain about the touch bar, so you might not even be missing out on a lot of things there. However, one thing that the new MacBooks do have is that Touch ID, where you can unlock your MacBook with a fingerprint sensor. It might be a big deal to you, it might not be, but this one does not have that capability. But in terms of a functional standpoint, this one is completely functional. Obviously, everything works on it. When I was using it throughout college, and I was not only, filling things out for college and doing everything like that, and it ran perfectly fine for me on my standpoint, but I was also able to do a bit of programming, but also I was able to do videos on this thing too with Final Cut Pro, and it ran all my videos fine. I never really had an issue where I was running out of power or performance. And again, I had that base model, I had 8GB of RAM, so that's kind of a testament to this machine. It was really that sweet spot between performance and price point. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. I would at least get like a 16GB model with at least like 256 of storage, but still, this machine was able to optimize a lot what it was running. And I had it on Sierra before I updated to a 2015 model, and between that models and everything, the 2015 model is definitely that sweet spot. I actually like that model more, but this machine at its core was still really good. Now, one really cool thing is that this one is still getting software support, which is really awesome. A lot of even Windows laptops and everything, they're just not optimized that much. They don't get software support for that long, just depending on the manufacturer. Obviously, not all Windows machines are like that, but some of them can be like that. And this one, the software is really optimized for even these older machines. Even my 2015 MacBook, I have Mojave on it and it runs perfectly fine. However, I will preface that by saying a lot of machines that I've been seeing, even the 2014 ones, I read a lot about them on Reddit. macOS Catalina does not run that well on these older machines, if I'm being honest. I made a video about when Catalina came out, saying it could cause a lot of problems for these older ones, and luckily a lot of people watched that video, so they kind of got an idea from it. But regardless, it's not that big of a deal. But if I were you, I would definitely keep it at around that macOS Mojave, even macOS High Sierra. I think Catalina is still kind of in its infancy, and I probably want to recommend you updating it on a 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro. But even on that 15-inch MacBook Pro, that's kind of a big deal too. And with the advantage of the MacBook Pro 15-inch for the 2014 model is that you are kind of getting not only more additional RAM, additional storage potentially as well, but also you have that capability of getting a quad-core CPU, which is really cool. If you want that capability, you can get it by doing that. Me personally, I had that 13-inch, but I also was able to play around with a 15-inch at the time. And during my time using that, I really didn't have too many issues with it either. It ran perfectly fine. It's definitely faster than a 13-inch, but it's more or less the same. Of course, if I used it longer, if I used it as a main machine, I might have been able to tell humongous differences or anything like that. But what I will tell you is the biggest thing that I saw and the biggest performance increase that I saw in the usability of a MacBook was not necessarily when I had like a 2014 to 2015 MacBook Pro when I made that jump. It was more so when I got an SSD in my MacBook. When I did that, my performance changed greatly from even when the 2015, when I had a 15-inch 2015 one, and when I got one with an SSD in it, the same model, same 15-inch, same everything, it totally changed everything. And I didn't really understand that much about MacBooks and SSDs and all that, but after that happened, it totally changed my opinion on it. So if I were you, if you're planning on getting a MacBook Pro in 2020, that is a 2014 model, specifically this one, just know that my experience with it has always been a positive one, but even mine was on a base model, the 8GB one with a hard drive in it. If I were you, I would definitely recommend getting one with an SSD in it. Even if you're going to get the smallest RAM model, getting one with an SSD will definitely future-proof yourself, and that's one thing I would highly recommend if you're going into something in this route. So what I can tell you is that my experience with this thing it's always been positive. I've always had a positive experience with this specific MacBook. Is it the best MacBook ever made? Obviously not. It has a lot of flaws in it too. Like I said, maybe battery life could be one too. I've always kind of felt like it's always kind of running low on battery life. Performance, especially now on Catalina, might not be the best. Those softwares are being optimized for the newest versions of MacBooks. Mojave is definitely that sweet spot. I would highly recommend you to keep it on Mojave if you can. If you can't, if there's an issue with it, obviously Catalina you're gonna have to get used to. But I think the 2014 MacBook, if you get one for about like $500, maybe a little bit cheaper, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a student, if your use case is very low, if you don't use your MacBook like a crazy amount or anything. I think you can definitely get by with a 2014 MacBook. I don't think it's that bad of a performing device. Even now in 2020, you can upgrade a couple things of it, which are really nice. The lamination of the screen was another issue that I had, but I was able to ship it into Apple to get it fixed. But as far as I know, Apple is not doing that anymore, so make sure if you're getting it used, make sure that screen was maybe replaced once, or at least it's not eliminating that much. And this thing is probably getting software support for a little bit longer too, so you're pretty much set in that department. So I think this MacBook's definitely a plus if you're getting one. If you need one that's a cheap model and you just need one to, if your use case isn't that high, you can definitely get by with something like a base model 2014, but I would definitely go for one with an SSD in it. So that pretty much covers it up there. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.